We have a strong storm system sitting in southeastern Canada that's going to be strengthening some overnight and into Thursday. And that has produced a very large area of winter weather advisories to winter storm warnings to lake effect snow warnings to wind advisories from the Northern Plains straight eastward all the way into northern New England. We will, of course, break it down in such great detail that I think all of you will be astounded. And Joe Rayo is going to be doing the radars tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which of course is brought to you by, hold on, our friends at Amazon. If you're shopping for the holidays, it's Amazon. Use the referral link pinned at the top of the chat board or in the description to this podcast. This way, you not only get your stuff, but Amazon throws the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast a little bit of coin. And it's an easy way to support what we're doing here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. and the occasional Friday and Saturday. And it doesn't cost you a dime. So we appreciate whatever support you can give us here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. So we're going to get this out of, I'm going to get this out of the way. So today I experienced what would be the equivalent of a temperature of 17, which was what it was this morning, and I was on a boat in Lake Nottely, Joe, going 40 miles an hour in my face, and I don't know what the effective wind chill is of 17 with a 40-mile-an-hour wind, but it was hideous. However, the payback was that I caught this lovely striped bass. And there it is. That was and this guy I caught it on a spin rod with 15-pound test. It took me a while to land this fish. He fought all the way from start to finish. So I managed to suffer through 4 hours of very cold weather out there, but did manage to get a fish. So I'm
Now, did you keep him or did you throw him back?
no, I catch and release. I catch and
Yes.
release. And I was with my friends. I was with my friends Phil and Howie, and came down from Phil from Long Island, Howie from South Carolina, who used to be from Long Island, and we had a wonderful morning.
Yeah. And I wish my wife were able to hear you say that. Maybe she finally got off the phone here. But I said, Joe may have thrown it back. Oh, no, he wouldn't throw something like that back. Look how big it is. And then I mentioned about Bob Ross, the PBS artist, the Happy Trees artist. And he says that when he used to go fishing, he used to catch a fish, bring it into the boat, pat it on a tutu, and then let it go to see if he'd catch it another day or whatever. And she's under the impression like nobody does that anymore. Nobody, you catch something, you hold on to it, or
No, a lot of people play catch and release. It's a, you know, I don't know how to clean a fish. Um, my
I
friend
know
Phil,
that
yeah, I'm,
nobody
uh,
does.
and sometimes when you go out on these guide boats, the boat people will clean the fish for you, but this particular guide boat that I use doesn't do that. So I much rather. I mean, if I got to clean, if I had somebody to clean it, I could take it to the local fish market and they could clean it for me. But no, I caught it, had fun, and put him back so that he could live to see another day. So anyway. Uh, I would just say that I don't know that I would go out again to go fishing in December in 17 degrees and then be on a boat that's going 40 miles an hour, so the wind is blowing in my face. And there was no actual wind this morning, but of course, the motion of the boat, you're basically creating your own wind. And it was brutal, absolutely brutal. I did have, by the way, a one of these uh, high-tech thermal heated vests. And it's got a little box there that you charge on you charge with a USB cable, and you hit a couple of buttons on your vest and it produces heat, and it did keep me warm. I have to say, it did keep me warm. So anyhow, uh, it's a pretty big size storm system in southern Canada. For a clipper, it's got probably more moisture than most clippers do. And it's just going to, the impacts are pretty wide. I mean, we're talking about impacts from the Northern Plains all the way through northern New England for tonight into tomorrow. And of course, we've got big snows that are going to be going on in the lakes, and at least for areas in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, the question is, you know, it's one of these deals where you get a coating to an inch in some places, maybe a little bit more in others, maybe a little bit less. But being on the road when these minor snow accumulation events happen can oftentimes be far worse than when you have a big event.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And in fact, a very bad accident took place. Let me think about this now. Almost 20 years ago. It's hard for me to believe how time has flown, but I think it was back it was on New Year's Eve in 2005. My wife took my son, my daughter, who of course much younger all those years ago, and my sister to a movie. In fact, I remember even what the name of the movie was, Narnia. It was some nonsensical movie about a lion, I think. I don't know what it
I,
was.
I saw it.
Why did you come with us? No, I didn't really feel like coming. I did not want to go spend my Saturday afternoon watching that kind of a movie or whatever. I had other things to do. However, um, at about mid-afternoon, this is a couple hours after they had left, it started to snow. And there really wasn't all that much. It was a wet, slushy snow which accumulated maybe a few tenths of an inch. And the local highway people did not do anything about it. They did not treat the roads. They did not have anybody out salting and sanding or whatever. But it was just a little tiny little bit of a. Well, anyway, I live on a hill, and it's on a downhill slope. And here comes Renata in our almost new minivan. It was less than 2 years old. And she's coming up the hill, reaches the top. As she's going down the hill on this slippery slope, all of a sudden she realizes that she doesn't have any traction. And this car is now sliding. It is sliding on this thin coating of slushy snow. And to make a long story short, she ended up in somebody's driveway and slammed the car head on. I'm surprised that the bags did not go off in the car, but she hit somebody else's car. All kinds of problems. It was terrible. But the thing is, it was a little bit of snow, and that caused major problems. Now tomorrow morning, there's going to be probably a little bit of snow on the roadways, and I'm concerned about the fact that not all, but some municipalities don't do a darn thing to the roads until they hear the Weather Service issue a snow advisory or a winter weather advisory or a snow alert or something. Then they say, okay, now we have to be concerned because the Weather Service is saying. But I'm looking at the forecasts here. Just to my north is Dutchess County. The National Weather Service in Albany for Dutchess County said little or no accumulation. And here in New York, the National Weather Service in Upton, New York, which has jurisdiction over my county, Putnam County, is saying maybe an inch tonight, maybe another inch tomorrow. And I'm saying, I thought these weather services get together and try to come up with a nice, seamless type of weather forecast, but how could you have one just a few miles north of me say there's nothing on the roadways, and another is saying like an inch tonight, an inch tomorrow? There's going to be mayhem, I think, tomorrow, Joe. I mean, there's no warnings, no advisory. The only advisory is for the wind. That's all. Oh, it's going to be a windy day tomorrow. But tomorrow, it's going to be different than it was a week ago. You remember a week ago, it was on a Friday, not last Friday, but the previous Friday. They did have winter weather advisories for Orange and Rockland and northern Westchester and Dutchess and everything. And as it turned out, there was snow, accumulating snow, but on the grass. Meantime, nothing on the roadways because we had a slew of 50-degree days prior to that. And so nothing stuck or hardly anything stuck to the paved surfaces. It was more wet than white. And so there really wasn't any problem. And yet, some of the schools had 2 hour delays, others actually closed. For what? For what? I mean, like, you could have gone on any of those roadways and it was just like another wet or rainy kind of day. There's nothing. Now, tomorrow, everybody's going to wake up, they're going to look outside my driveway. My God, it's been frigidly, not frigidly cold, but very cold these last several days. That ground is cold. So when it starts to snow, when we start having snow fall and it begins to come on down, when it hits that ground, it ain't going anywhere. It's going to start accumulating, and it'll be a light accumulation. And tomorrow morning, when people are heading out to work, they're going to find many of the roadways are going to have a light accumulation of snow. And all I could say is good luck, because in a lot of cases, not all, but in a lot of cases, that roadway or those roadways will not have been treated. There won't be any plows, there won't be any sanders or salters until somebody wakes up and says, "Hey, hey, look, it's snowing. We got some snow on the ground. We better do something." And then it's going to be too late. And I can see this. And then what's going to happen is that everything's going to come backfiring on the weather forecasters. Why did you tell us that this was happening or whatever? Because there's going to be people out there spinning out, sliding, slipping, and sliding. I could see this already happening. This happened. You remember, you and I were thinking about this November of what, 2018? Remember
Yeah,
that
yeah,
day?
yeah,
The
yeah. I remember.
And nobody did a damn
Deaf
thing.
ears, Joe. Deaf
Yep,
ears. It fell on deaf ears.
yep.
Yeah,
That was who's calling, by the way. That was my son. You heard the phone ring at the onset of our show, and before we came on, I tried calling him because I wanted to tell him, be extra careful tomorrow, because even if there's a little bit of snow on the ground, I said, you remember what happened with Mom about 20 years ago, right? Because and he's bringing our grandson, because tomorrow is the day when we watch our grandchild while he and my daughter-in-law go to work. And the last thing I want to see happen tomorrow is any kind of a problem on the roadway and any kind of a slippery, slidey condition or whatever.
yep.
But anyway, how are you, Joe?
I'm fine, thank you. All the better for your asking. David Fuller, thank you for hitting Super Chat. You're in Monmouth County, and I don't think you're going to have to worry about uh, coating of snow tomorrow, but not by you. You're probably too far south and east, so you could breathe a sigh of relief over that. You won't have extra work to do it at school tomorrow. Let's by the way, our favorite David Tolerus is gracing us with the on the chat board tonight. So it's practically like having a movie star, almost like I almost like Taylor Swift, who we know watches the show, is one of those that will lurk in the background here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. We
And and Dennis Cassia on the chat board says where he lives in southwestern Connecticut in Fairfield County. Severe black ice here. 3 accidents already. Already now. The snow hasn't even begun. The fun hasn't even begun yet. I mean, you would think that there would be some treated roads where Dennis is. No. And it's only we're only gonna roll from here, folks. That's you know.
yeah. Let's look at the watches and warnings. While Joe is prepping the radar, we can tell you that we have a whole bunch of things going on from that respect. We've have a lot of areas in the Northeast and down into the Mid-Atlantic states and back through parts of the Upper Ohio Valley and Great Lakes under wind advisories. And also, just if you go further north in the Catskills, it's winter weather advisories that then translate into winter storm warnings for central and north central New York. Once the lake effect machine gets going, they're going to see their snows pick up there. Advisories extend westward in the northern half of western New York, which includes Buffalo, winter weather advisories, but then they switch over to lake effect snow warnings as you head a little bit further south into southwestern New York and northwestern PA and parts of northeastern Ohio. Over Michigan, again, winter storm warnings in the western half, weather advisories in the eastern half, and winter storm warnings on the UP. In the west, we've got freezing fog and fog going on. Really, the weather in the west has been generally quiet for quite a while. And as we check out the satellite loop tonight, you can see the cloud cover and you can actually see the rotation of what's moving through the Great Lakes. It's a very sprawling system for a clipper. And there is moisture in the Gulf that's come out from Texas, a little subtropical jet here that's pushed moisture into Texas and into parts of Louisiana and Mississippi with clouds streaming eastward. There's some rain going on there. And we have a little bit of rain offshore of the Pacific Northwest that is moving to the east. Ari Mac, thank you for hitting Super Chat tonight. What is Passaic, New Jersey? Joe, what do you think about Passaic, New Jersey tonight and tomorrow? Coating to an inch, especially in West Passaic.
Yeah, I think something along those lines. I'm also, a couple of people have brought this up on the chat board. We might be dealing with the actual weather front. And again, I said this over and over again yesterday. I see local weather forecasters. Well, this is an Alberta clipper. No, it's not. Not for us. Not for the tri-state metropolitan area. This is not a clipper. This is going to be a sharp Arctic cold front. And depending upon how things develop over the coming hours, there could very well be a few embedded snow squalls in there. And again, with the cold ground, all you need is one squall to drop, a quickie quarter or half inch of snow, and then it's really on many of those roads, especially the secondary roads, it's all over. And that's what has me very concerned. But yeah, there could be, I mean, any kind of, and we're already, as I said, hearing on the chat board, Dennis and a couple other about black ice. We're already hearing about this now, and it may only be aggravated later tonight and tomorrow morning. And then people are going to be saying nobody told us about this. Well,
Yeah.
we're telling you about this now on the Joe and Joe show.
Well, we told you about it last night on the Joe and
Yes,
Joe Weather Show podcast,
exactly.
and we hinted at it strongly the night before that on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And
Right.
last week we indicated that there might be a possibility of something like this right here on the
On the
Joe and
Joe and
Joe
Joe
Weather Show podcast.
podcast.
Now on the radar, I think when you look at the signature of the radar tonight, it very much supports what you're saying. You can actually see, you got a low that's sitting up, that's going to eventually be sitting up just north of Lake Ontario. But you look to the south, where the fronts are going to be having, where the front is going to be having impact, and the upper trough is going to be having impact. You can already see there these, you know, these. I don't want to call them lines yet, but you got these bands that extend southward, very frontal looking, that are sweeping eastward. And yeah, I would, I would not at all be surprised if we wind up with a sharp front when it comes through, that you get this sort of narrow line of stronger snow showers, and let's call them maybe the possibility of a snow squall when this all sweeps on through. And given the busy radars, I think Joe Rayo can now take over the controls and take you around a number of places in the Northeast and Midwest where we've got precipitation tonight on the radar.
Right. And we start off with right here in New York at National Weather Service, Upton, Long Island. And we're getting reports on the chat board of people in and around Queens and Brooklyn saying it's like 42 degrees and light rain falling. So you can see that precipitation has already begun moving in over portions of the immediate New York City area. This is interesting. This broad area, which is located just about over me or just to my north, you can see this area of green. I'm not sure what that is translating into, whether or not it's a mixture of rain and wet snow. Right now, the temperature at my house is right around 34 degrees. So whatever we have is in the form of probably wet snow or wet snow mixed with rain. But again, that ground is cold. It's cold ground, and that's what has me concerned that could freeze on contact. And as Dennis already mentioned, where he is in Monroe, Connecticut, there's black ice problems and spinouts. So this can only get worse before it can get better. And this, again, is the radar out of Upton, New York, National Weather Service in Upton. We go further south and west down to, let's say, Philadelphia, or as Fred Mertz would say, I know a shortcut through Philadelphia. You could see that down there, the precipitation is more patchy. It's and it actually looks shows signs of a little bit of banding because the cold front again is back here to the west over in central Pennsylvania, and that will be whirling eastward over the coming hours, and all of the precip gathering in front of it. And that precip again will be. There's also another thing, Joe, about tonight, about the temperatures. As I said, right now, probably around 33, 34 locally. I wouldn't be surprised if the temperatures actually, even up here in Putnam County, went up a couple of degrees during the overnight, thanks to a gusty southerly or southwesterly wind out ahead of that cold front. Now, if we go further back to the west, let's go into the central part of Pennsylvania. This is State College, and you can see that out there the precipitation is a little bit more significant, a large blob, if you will, of moisture. And look at this. You could actually see, this is probably where the cold front is. You can see this sharp, narrow band of green, and that could very well be affiliated with the approaching front, and that stretches across central PA, south and west, down toward the Pittsburgh area. And again, this is all moving along from west to east with the front, and we'll be tracking it and looking at it as we move through the night. Let's take a look at Buffalo, which will probably be receiving a new round of lake effect once the front moves on by. We get into that rather fierce and gusty northwesterly wind. It'll be a different type of wind this time around as opposed to what they had over the weekend. There will be lake effect, but it'll be hitting hardest in places that didn't get quite as much snow as other places this past Sunday. And you can see here we have in Buffalo picking up on the radar. This is the stuff that is probably located immediately along or just behind the front. And as Joe mentioned, we do have wind advisories posted. Winds tomorrow are really going to be blowing, probably sustained 20 to 30, maybe gusts in excess of 40 or 50 miles an hour. And that could, of course, bring down a few tree branches, could bring down a power line or two. Don't be surprised. There might be some scattered power outages with that forceful wind tomorrow behind it. And let's see, where else can we take you? Let's go to let's go toward the Great Lakes.
Yeah,
Uh,
let's.
let's go to someplace in northern Indiana. Doesn't show you all that much though. This is North Webster, Indiana. Let me go.
Take a ride up Western Michigan.
Let's go to Detroit. Detroit, and I'm waiting for it to for the radar to load up here. It's not moving at all. There it is. There's the movement, and you can see that here. All of what you're seeing here is in all likelihood snow, and it's moving kind of like a wave, if you will, or waves across the lower peninsula of Michigan. And Detroit again probably receiving some snowfall out of this. And if we go up further up toward, let's say, Gaylord, Michigan, and Gaylord, this is here's Sault Ste. Marie up here, and you can see that there's a broad area of some snow shower activity up here as well. And I'm sure also because of the fast movement that we have some strong gusty winds. Look at how this all just conglomerates into one big mass, if you will, over the passage of time. This is a 3-hour loop, but you can see how this consolidates into one major area of solid snow coverage right here, again, over the northern end of the lower peninsula of Michigan. Anywhere else you want to go, Joe? Or
Well, you checked out Michigan. How about Western Pennsylvania?
let's try Pittsburgh. I'm sure we have something out there. Here is Pittsburgh, Coriopolis, and look at this again might be affiliated with the actual cold front. Pittsburgh itself doesn't look like it's seeing anything. This is Pittsburgh right here, although in the final few frames of the loop, they are getting into probably some snow shower and maybe even some snow squally weather. We'll see how this all holds together in the coming hours as it moves across the state of Pennsylvania, and eventually, again, with the actual frontal passage tomorrow in the morning, probably around daybreak here in the New York metropolitan area. We'll see what comes out of that. early in the morning tomorrow.
All right. That I think covers it pretty well. I'm going to go back to the wide radar view. I was just trying to see, notice it's snowing in Buffalo in 32, but in Jamestown to the southwest, it's snowing harder and it's 23. Of course, they have like 3 feet plus of snow on the ground because of what happened earlier in the week and back from last weekend. And now, they got this next round that's coming in for later tonight and tomorrow in western New York and northwestern Pennsylvania. So the radar's there, very busy. To the south, we've got some heavier rains in central and northern Louisiana, East Texas, moving into parts of Mississippi. This area is advancing slowly to the east, but the rest of the country is really very, very quiet with not much happening. Storm Prediction Center has no severe weather forecast for the next several days. And as far as precipitation is concerned, in terms of what we see in the Northeast now, this goes through next Thursday, so there's another weather system, actually maybe a couple of weather systems to deal with next week in warmer air. So these amounts are not front end loaded. If anything, they're probably more back end loaded, but they are also reflecting some of the precipitation that's going to be falling tonight and Thursday in western New York is snow, and also in north central New York and in between as well, uh, back into Ohio. In Gulf states, we're looking at uh, 2 to maybe as much as 4 inches of rain or more in some places from East Texas into Alabama and into Georgia over me, with a half to 3/4 pushing up into the Carolinas. We also, actually, I want to just see something here. I want to go back. They had blizzard warnings up, and they still do. I want to mention this, that for the mountains of West Virginia, 1, 2, 3, part of 4, 5 counties in West Virginia are under a blizzard warning with this. I'm just going to take a look at Snowshoe, West Virginia. Look at the Elkins weather forecast. So they're going for 3 to 7 inches, and then maybe another inch after that. So let's even it out and just say 4 to 8. But adding the wind gusting at 40 miles an hour, they decided to go with blizzard warnings there in the mountains of West Virginia. So back to the precip map. Uh, Nothing much in the plains, nothing much in the southwest. The northwest, you start to see some heavier rains in northwestern Oregon and into western Washington State, and that is just about it. So here's what's going on at the surface. And you can see there's a low here in southern Canada. There's a 992 low north of Lake Huron. To the west of that, we have a 1040 high. So the pressure gradient is, and you can see it's exceedingly tight from the western lakes right back through the plains. And as we go through the night and into tomorrow, when the low starts to move to the east, you can see the tight pressure gradient. And also, if you look at the isobars, there's a distinct kink here in the isobars in eastern Pennsylvania. So that could be marking a sharp trough of some kind that comes through and maybe produces a burst of snow tomorrow morning in many areas in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England. Then the low moves out to the east and northeast. Will still have winds to deal with, along with very cold temperatures for Thursday night, Friday, and Friday night into Saturday morning. And then after that, we start to moderate as we go through the weekend, and then it sets up for warmer conditions next week with the high offshore off the southeast coast. You get some Gulf moisture that starts to stream northward come Monday, and so we get rain. And this is going to open the door for flash flood issues in western New York and for northwest PA and northeast Ohio. After a combination of lake effect snows that put down about 70, uh, 60, 70 inches, is now going to get washed away by rain and warmer temperatures. That's not necessarily a good thing. So one wave goes out, and then a second wave develops. Most of the models carry the idea of a second wave coming out of the Gulf states and moving up the coast. with maybe a little bit of colder air in areas well inland, but it's a forecast problem for later next week and not now. The GFS run, the operational run, which is a little different from the ensembles, is not the warmest run in the world. I mean, it certainly would just kind of say that we go back to seasonal temperatures overall and nothing excessive as far as warm temperatures are concerned. So I'm still going to stick with that idea. I don't know if I necessarily agree with these pushes of cold air coming down on this run. The European has also a similar idea with this. So we'll see how it plays out in the long range. I do want to show you the SREF, uh, the Les Plumes, but plotted on a
Absolutely.
map. I
Yes.
said last night that the SREF I thought had probably the best representation of all the models as far as how this snow plays out. And if you look at what it's done tonight, it's actually gotten a little more bullish with what we're talking about here, which is a coating to an inch. But it now actually gives 1 inch amounts for, let's say, northern New Jersey, north of Route 78, and even brings an inch to near New York City and Yonkers and a little bit more as you move up the Hudson Valley. It still has those higher amounts in northern Connecticut, north of Route, mostly along and north of Route 84 and pushing up into Mass. I honestly don't think that this is a bad representation of what may happen tonight into tomorrow morning. If we look at the GFS, just for comparison. Now, see, here's the thing, folks, when it comes to these snow maps, we're in the ultra short range here. So I think we could look at these and you're not going to get these maps that produce 50-inch amounts in a short range. You'll see those stupid maps when they come up in the long range, but not so much in the short range. You're not going to see them in the short range. Even the GFS kind of hints at the same idea. North of Route 78, New Jersey, and then pushing up the Hudson Valley, you start to see some higher amounts. Um, you know, we got some higher amounts in Dutchess County, so that should make you happy with what you said earlier. And also, again, in Connecticut, north of Route 8, along and north of Route 84 points northward. If we want to look at the European, we can do that too. This is the 18Z European. And yeah, I mean, the same idea here. You can see, uh, again, a coating to an inch north of 78, then it picks up a little bit more as you head up to the Hudson Valley and north of Route 84. Yeah, I think any one of those three, I think you could make a case for.
Okay, if you go back to my screen for a moment, I'm sharing the very latest surface analysis chart from the Weather Prediction Center, and I just want to point out now this analysis of the positions of the various weather systems is as of 4 o'clock this afternoon. Of course, now we're just coming up on just after 8 o'clock. So in a little bit, they'll probably come up with the new surface analysis showing the positions as of 7 p.m. But as of 4 o'clock this afternoon, here is the Clipper system that everybody has been talking about. But see where it is. It's located to the north of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, moving across southwestern, actually southern sections, south central sections of Ontario. This thing is never really going to have a say in our weather in terms of coming directly at us. It's going to stay well to our north. But here is the player. This is the cold front. This is the Arctic blast, if you will, with the cold, gusty winds that will be influencing our area tomorrow. And with this particular front, anywhere within 3 to 6 hours before and during the actual passage, and the actual passage is expected to be around 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. So look, it's all the way out here at 4 o'clock, and it's supposed to be in our area come tomorrow morning. It is coming down the road really fast. And so when you have fronts coming that quickly, moving that quickly, forward speed like that, there's going to be a lot of lift involved. And I would be concerned that there could be, just before it arrives, maybe a few locally heavy snow showers or snow squalls, not out of the question. That this thing is going to tear on through here probably around 7 a.m. tomorrow morning with, again, maybe some heavier snow showers or maybe a snow squall. Move on through and look at that gradient. Joe pointed this out on the GFS, but there's the gradient that's going to drop very strong and gusty northwesterly winds. Again, sustained speeds of 20 to 30, gusts to over 40, maybe even over 50 miles an hour. And that'll all happen as soon as this front goes flying through. There you see the V, if you will, of the orientation of the isobars, and from that V you can actually draw where the weather front is, and that V again is going to lift right on through here come daybreak tomorrow morning. So that's going to be when the fun is going to be happening, and we'll see what happens in terms of wind and or any precipitation early tomorrow morning. And that's concerning because again, that coincides with your Thursday morning commute to work and school. I'm hoping that we don't have any problems, but again, I'm even surprised, Joe, that sometimes when they don't issue an advisory in terms of possible precipitation, they sometimes issue at least a special weather statement to alert you to that. I have not seen anything like that either. So I'm hoping again that I'd rather be safe than sorry, but that's what we're looking at for tomorrow morning here in the tri-state area.
Well, uh, well, now we just have to wake up tomorrow morning and see how it turns out.
Yes,
And then, of course, we'll be here tomorrow night to take a beating if it winds up differently, or you know, sing our
whatever happens,
praises if it doesn't. I don't want to.
whatever happens, one thing I can assure you, whatever happens, I'll be out with the dog tomorrow morning.
Oh yes, of
The
course.
dog,
As
the dog needs to go.
dog
Well, you
always. Yes, exactly. Um. Anyways, let's roll with a little bit of Griller Jeopardy tonight. And just a second, talking to one of my removal guys on Facebook. Okay, so tonight, let's see the average snowfall in December for the following cities for the month of December. Okay, for the month of December. And Miss Fowlerite will probably like this because the first one on the list is Kansas City. And I was just looking ahead because I saw your question about the chances for snow next week. I mean, it doesn't look like much going on for next week in your neck of the woods. But Kansas City, Joe.
and what are we looking for now?
This is
Kansas.
the average snowfall for the month of December.
Oh, okay. Kansas City, 4 inches.
Ring the bell for yourself, Mr. Rayo.
Oh,
It's 4 inches is the answer. And
thank
for
you.
those of you on the chat board who said 4 inches, you can share in that bell ringing. Uh, okay. Next is Minneapolis.
Minneapolis, which a lot of people, if they hear that and they say, oh my God, 16, 20 inches of that. But really, Minneapolis doesn't get quite as much snow as you might think because, again, they're awfully cold, and the cold tends to um diminish.
Yeah, they're
It's
too far west for anything, any effect off of Lake Superior, and they're
correct.
not. They're also more. You would consider most of Minnesota as being more part of the Northern Plains than anything else. And I mean in terms of the weather. So yeah, you're right. I mean,
How about
gets very cold, but it tends to be dry.
how about 5 inches?
No, it's not that low. It's not that low. CWTR Shark and Rich Rothmansky, and also Lou Aricio, and Patrick Darcy and Rich Rothmansky, all went with 11 inches. And 11 is the answer. 11 inches.
11. 11.
Yes.
Ring the bell.
Um,
All of you at the 11 club.
let's see. Next on the list would be Milwaukee.
Well, Milwaukee is not too far from Minneapolis, would it?
Well, it's
Now,
closer.
now the question is
It's
this,
much closer to Chicago.
yeah, and but the other thing is that would they get enhancement from? I guess if they got a east southeasterly wind, is
Yeah,
that
any kind of east wind or a northeast wind would give them some lake effect.
I didn't. Now Chicago last night was what 8, 9. They shouldn't be too different than Chicago. I'll say 9.
Well, you leaned higher, which I think is right, and you're very close with your prediction of 9. But we have Jason Fox and uh, Dave Toleris hitting it on the nose, along with Rothmansky and Adam Lowe. 10 inches, Joe. 10 inches.
There you go. Ding ding.
Yes. Um, any opportunity to ring a bell for David Tolerus is just, you have to take it. Oklahoma, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma City.
Um, hmm, Oklahoma City. Oklahoma. Three?
Uh, yeah, you're not that far off. You're not that far off. You're close, actually.
Okay.
Well, you see, the thing is, because the numbers are so low, I can look at this and say, well, you're 33% off. Okay. Ken Musillo, Alan, Patrick Darcy, anybody on the chat board that went with a two would be correct. So two is the correct answer.
There you
Last
go.
is Portland, Oregon. Portland, Oregon.
Does Portland, Oregon get snow in December?
Well, depending on if you only get one of those deep troughs on the West Coast where the Arctic high comes down and sort of pins itself into Washington State, and then they get this this east wind. Yeah,
All right.
they do. They
Out of
could,
respect, out of respect for that, I'll say one.
and you can ring yourself the bell for yourself and
Ding,
Maggie
ding.
B and David Tolerus and anybody else who said one. Finally, we have a bonus tonight, which is Flagstaff.
Oh God, Flagstaff. There you go. Flagstaff.
Flagstaff.
12?
Too low.
Too low. See, I knew it.
Chuck
I knew it.
Cardillo. Chuck Cardillo said 17. That is also a little too low. Okay. Adam Lowe's at 23. That's too high. Uh, so you guys have the range now. Oh, Abedin Durakovic hits it on the nose, and Vincent Croce and Tim Latex Dreams 19. 19
Yeah,
is
yeah.
the magic number. All right. I think
See,
we'll call.
people say if I go to Arizona, I'm going to Flagstaff because it's elevated and the summers are much cooler than Tucson and Phoenix or whatever. Yeah, that's the good half. The other half is you go there in the winter. You're there in the winter time, and you better bring along your snow shovel.
They get real winters in northern Arizona.
Absolutely,
You know?
absolutely.
All right, folks. So look, we're back tomorrow night at 7:35 p.m. Thanks for being here tonight. For those of you who are new to the show, I usually say this earlier, but subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss us. We're on Sunday through Thursday at 7:35, and on Fridays and Saturdays when there's storms around, and we always let you know ahead of time if we're adding a show. If you like the show today, do hit the like button. We always like to go to 100 likes. We got to just about 80. But we're going to fall short tonight. But still, 80's not too shabby for us.
We're asking. People are asking on the chat board for a return of Dave Tolerus and his winter outlook. On the chat board, he says, long term, yes, we are definitely going into phase 6 with the MJO later on next week, which is a huge negative anomaly or trough on the West Coast in a strong ridge across, and that's where it ends. But I would presume that
I would assume the
it's
East.
going to be a much colder pattern coming up maybe later in December
Well,
or,
afterward, yeah. Well, we'll see.
yes, yes.
Okay, so everybody, thanks for being here tonight. Oh, we're only 7 likes short of 100, so that's good. Um, I'm just trying to think if there's anything. Oh, now he says after that, the issue is where does the MJO go from there? Most of the models are taking the MJO into phase 7, which implies that the MJO reaches phase 8 by the time we reach New Year or the last week of December. Okay, so if you're a fan of the Madden Julian oscillation, which sounds like a '60s dance, uh, yeah, that would be something that snow lovers would be most happy about. So
Wasn't
we'll
there a
see.
song? Wasn't there a song about 25 years ago, Mojo Rising? Mojo Rising.
You're asking the wrong person. I'm not a big music fiend.
All right.
Um, anyway, we're just about at 100 likes. We're at 98. So if you want to preemptively ring the bell for us hitting 100 tonight. Oh, now here's Dave says the IRI Climate Research Center latest models from the middle of November show that only one of the 26 climate models are forecasting La Nina. You wrote Linea. I'm assuming it means La Nina for this winter, and that happens to be the CFS. Well, you also know what CFS stands for, right, David? Can't forecast the S word, meaning doo doo. Uh, Although I did notice, by the way, that the CFS last week suddenly went on their monthly forecasts. I honestly haven't looked at it very much at all um, over the last couple of months. So it might have done this sooner, but it went from being pretty much a warm all through January, February, March, and now, at least in terms of what I looked at on the 500, had a much colder look. So we'll see. All right, 100 likes. We got it. We can say
We hit
goodnight.
it.
Dave, you can hold on to your thoughts. We appreciate it, but we're going to shut the show down now. However, uh, we'll try and sync up a day that you can come on and pontificate on your long range predilections. Is that the right word, Joe?
I think so.
Okay. All right, very good. So have a great night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow night. Bye bye.